Imagine a place where the horizon melts into a shimmering turquoise sea, and every shore feels like a secret whispered by nature itself. This is the Philippines, an archipelago of 7,000 islands, where the dream of a perfect life seems almost tangible. For many, it is the ultimate sanctuary, a tropical Eden promising eternal summer and a freedom that the modern world has long forgotten. We are told stories of cheap land, effortless luxury, and a pace of life that allows the soul to breathe and the mind to finally relax. But behind the glossy postcards and the golden glow of the sunset, there lies a much more complex and honest story of survival. To live here is to embrace a duality, a constant dance between the highest peak of paradise and the deepest depths of a living hell. From the breathtaking beauty of the outer islands to the chaotic pulse of the cities, the contrast is as sharp as a razor blade. One side of the coin offers villas for $20,000 and a life of absolute freedom, where the rules of the West no longer apply. But the other side is a world of systemic failure, where a simple medical emergency can become a desperate fight for your very life. This is not a travel brochure. This is an honest account of the island life, the true cost of paradise, and the price of the hell that comes with it. For the outsider, the dream begins with a flight to Manila, a city where the noise is deafening and the energy is absolutely electric. But the real lure lies further south, in the hidden lagoons where the water is so clear it feels like the islands are floating in air. It is a land of extreme contradictions, where the most humble wooden hut can be the most coveted piece of real estate in the world. The promise is simple: leave the stress of the West behind and discover a place where time has no meaning and beauty is everywhere. For the European expat, it is a chance to reinvent himself, to live without a boss, without a tie, and without the weight of social expectations. Yet this freedom comes with a hidden price, a tax paid in patience, in frustration, and sometimes in the loss of basic human dignity. We will explore the heights of this paradise and the depths of its hell, speaking with those who dared to make this archipelago their home. Because to truly know the Philippines, you must be willing to see both the golden sand and the rust that hides beneath the surface. From the luxury of a $20,000 house to the nightmare of a failing hospital, this is the real life of the islands. Welcome to the archipelago of contradictions. Welcome to the paradise that can easily become your own personal, tropical hell. To understand the allure of these islands, one must first look at the raw, unfiltered beauty of places like Palawan.
I spent 30 years in a grey office in London dreaming of something real. When I first landed here, I felt like I had finally woken up.
This beauty is not just a backdrop. It is the primary engine that drives thousands of people to leave everything behind.
Most tourists only see the surface. They see the white sand and the smiles, but the islands have a deeper rhythm, a slower heart.
For those who stay, the natural splendor becomes a daily luxury, a constant reminder of why they chose this life over the West. But nature is a fickle host. The same sun that turns the sand to gold can also be a relentless force of exhaustion. To live in the paradise of the Philippines is to accept a deal with the unknown, where beauty is the currency and patience is the law. And as we dive deeper into the lives of the expats, we find that the paradise of the eyes often hides the struggles of the spirit. In the West, $20,000 might barely cover a down payment on a tiny studio. Here, it can buy you a whole house.
I remember the first time I saw a listing for $30,000. I thought it was a scam, or maybe just a plot of land.
This financial shock is the second great lure, transforming the dream of ownership from a lifelong struggle into an immediate reality.
You stop worrying about mortgages. You stop counting every penny. Suddenly you have the capital to actually live your life.
But the low price often comes with a hidden cost: the legal maze of land titles and the precarious nature of local ownership. Many expats discover too late that a $20,000 house can become a legal nightmare if the paperwork is not perfect.
It is a gamble. You are betting on a system that does not always follow the rules you grew up with in Europe or America.
Yet, For those who navigate the risks, the reward is a level of financial freedom that is simply impossible in the modern West. The dream of a $30,000 paradise is a powerful drug, and it draws thousands of seekers to these distant shores. But as the house is built and the bags are unpacked, the true nature of island life begins to reveal its hidden teeth.
It is intoxicating at first. The feeling that the state has forgotten you, and in that forgetfulness, you finally find your freedom.
This lawless charm is one of the strongest magnets for the Western soul, tired of the surveillance and the sterile order of Europe. In these moments, the social barriers dissolve. You are not a tourist or a citizen, you are just another traveler on a dusty road.
Of course, the lack of rules means you are on your own. If you crash, there is no rescue team coming in 5 minutes to save you.
The freedom is absolute, but it is a fragile gift, balanced on the edge of a chaotic system where safety is an afterthought. But the road eventually leads away from the beach and into the heart of the island, where the dream begins to clash with reality. Amidst the dusty roads and the unpredictable chaos, there are pockets of absolute order, where Europe feels only a few steps away.
I opened this place because I missed the consistency. The smell of a perfect roast, the cold air, the feeling that things just work.
These oases provide more than just caffeine. They are social hubs for an elite class of expats who refuse to let go of their standards.
You can spend the morning in a village that feels like the 19th century, and the afternoon in a place that feels like Stockholm.
It is a strange symbiosis, where local labor meets Western capital to create a bubble of luxury in the middle of a tropical jungle. For many, these spots are the only thing keeping them sane, a reminder that the world they left behind still exists, just a few blocks away.
But the bubble is fragile. One power outage, one broken pipe, and you are reminded that you are still on a small island in the Pacific.
The transition is instant. One step out the door and the sterile perfection of the cafe is swallowed by the noise and dust of the real world. This contrast defines the expat experience, the constant struggle to maintain a piece of the West while living in the heart of the East. As we move from the comfort of the cafe, we encounter the people who make this duality possible, the human heart of the archipelago. There is a specific kind of power that comes with a Western pension in a place where the cost of living is a fraction of the global average.
In Berlin, I lived in a small apartment and watched every cent. Here I have a staff, a pool, and a life I could only imagine in my youth.
This abundance is the ultimate aphrodisiac, turning ordinary men into local kings and creating a lifestyle of effortless ease. Fresh mangoes, grilled lobster, and a chilled glass of wine every single day, all for the price of a mediocre lunch in London or New York.
We like the foreigners because they are generous. They bring a world of wealth that helps our whole family survive and grow.
It is a relationship built on a profound economic gap, a symbiotic bond where luxury for one means survival for the other. When you can afford a full-time housekeeper and a private gardener for a few $100s a month, the world feels like it belongs to you.
I do not feel guilty. I provide jobs. I provide a better life for my staff than they would ever find in the city.
But the danger of this low-cost luxury is that it can blind you to the reality of the land you are living on. For some, the bubble of luxury is a sanctuary. For others, it is a gilded cage that separates them from the true heart of the islands. Beyond the landscapes and the luxury, the true essence of the Philippines is found in its people and their legendary hospitality.
We welcome everyone. For us, a stranger is just a friend we have not met yet, and a guest is a blessing to the house.
This warmth is intoxicating. It creates an immediate bond, making the outsider feel like they belong to something larger and kinder.
But there is a secret to our smiles. Sometimes a yes does not mean yes. It means we want to keep the harmony and avoid any conflict.
This cultural nuance is the first wall that expats hit. The kindness is real, but the directness of the West is often lost in translation. The social fabric is woven with generosity, but it is also a shield protecting the local community from the pressures of the outside world.
We give what we have, even if it is very little, For us, the happiness of the guest is more important than the cost of the meal.
It is this warmth that anchors the expatriates here, creating a sense of belonging that no amount of money can buy in a European city. But as the sun sets on the honeymoon face, the simplicity of the smile begins to reveal the complexity of the culture. To love the Philippines is to love its people, but to survive here, you must learn to hear what is not being said. In the expat community, wealth is not just about the money in the bank, but about the level of insulation it provides from the local chaos.
I do not live in the Philippines. I live in a curated version of it. My walls are high, my air is cold, and my staff handles the noise.
The gap between the villa and the bamboo hut is not just financial, it is a different way of experiencing the same paradise. For the wealthy, the Philippines is a playground. For the nomad, it is a laboratory for a new, leaner way of existing in the world.
We are all guests here, regardless of our bank balance, but some of us just have a much thicker cushion to fall on.
And yet, both the king and the nomad are searching for the same thing, a sense of freedom that the West can no longer provide. In the end, the money only buys you a better view of the same beautiful, broken world. In the quiet corners of the archipelago, a different kind of attraction blooms, drawing Western men to the grace and beauty of Filipina women.
It was not just the looks. It was the way Maya saw the world, with a kindness and a patience that I had never encountered in Europe.
These relationships are often more than just romance. They are bridges between two vastly different worlds, built on hope and mutual need.
Liam brought a new world into my life. He is different from the men here, more open, more curious about our simple ways of living.
For the Western man, the Filipina ideal represents a return to traditional values, a softness that balances the harshness of modern life. But love in the islands is never simple. It is often entangled with the expectations of family and the pressure of economic survival.
You quickly realize that you are not just dating a person, you are entering a whole community, a network of cousins and aunts.
It is a romanticized vision, but for many, it is the only thing that makes the hardships of island life bearable and meaningful. The beauty of the partner becomes a mirror of the beauty of the land, a delicate balance of grace and resilience in a wild place. But as the honeymoon ends, the reality of cultural clashes and financial burdens begins to shadow the tropical glow of romance. Beauty in the Philippines is often viewed through a lens of fantasy, a curated image of slim figures and sun-kissed skin. The world sees the slim, beautiful Filipina as the ideal partner, but this standard creates a pressure that few outsiders ever truly understand.
Many men come here looking for a specific type of woman. They want the beauty, the skin, the slim body, but they do not always see the person.
This obsession with aesthetics is not limited to the locals. Even the expats bring their own standards of beauty, creating a strange, globalized ideal. Yet, the true beauty of the islands is found in the resilience of the people, a strength that no photograph or romanticized image can capture.
I have seen women change themselves just to fit the image that Western men want. It is a sad side of this paradise that we rarely talk about.
The pursuit of the perfect image often masks the reality of a struggle for identity in a land caught between tradition and globalization. For some, the beauty is a gateway to a genuine connection, but for others, it is just another commodity in the marketplace of the islands. As we move past the surface of attraction, we begin to see how the human element is both the greatest joy and the deepest pain of island life. Integration is the final hurdle for any expat. It is the difference between living in a place and actually being a part of it.
At first, you are just the foreigner with the laptop. But then you start learning the language, the customs, and you realize they are just as curious about you.
The small, daily rituals are where the real integration happens. A morning coffee, a shared joke, a simple nod of recognition.
We like it when they try to understand us. Some just want the beach, but the ones who stay are the ones who love our spirit.
Yet, there is always a boundary, an invisible line that separates the guest from the host, no matter how many years have passed. These community gatherings are the ultimate test of integration, where the shared love for food and family overrides any cultural divide.
You stop being a tourist the moment you start caring about the local problems. When the village's struggle becomes your own struggle.
For some, this integration is a smooth transition. For others, it is a constant negotiation between two different identities. In the end, integration is not about becoming a local, but about finding a way to coexist with the beautiful chaos of the islands. But as the social bonds tighten, the fragility of this paradise becomes more evident, leading us into the slow descent of the expat dream. The first crack in the paradise is not a disaster, but a slow, grinding realization that time here operates on a different axis.
In Europe, if a meeting is at 10, it starts at 10. Here, 10 means maybe 11, or maybe tomorrow, depending on the mood of the official.
This is Filipino time, a cultural phenomenon that transforms a simple task into an odyssey of waiting and vague promises.
Running a business here is a constant battle against this inertia. You cannot plan, you cannot schedule, you can only hope.
You start to lose your mind. You ask when it will be done, and they smile and say tomorrow. But tomorrow never actually arrives.
To the locals, this is just the way of life. A relaxed flow that rejects the stress of the clock, but leaves the outsider stranded. This is the first real test of the island dream. Can you accept a world where nothing happens on time, or will the frustration break you? As we move further into the reality of the islands, we find that time is not the only thing that is broken in this paradise. As we move further into the reality of the islands, we find that time is not the only thing that is broken in this paradise. The postcard image of the Philippines is a lie of omission. It carefully crops out the plastic that now defines the shoreline.
We love our islands, but we do not know how to deal with the waste. The plastic does not disappear, it just moves from the city to our beaches.
In many villages, the waste management system is simply a hole in the ground or a small fire that burns toxic fumes into the air.
It is heartbreaking. You walk 10 meters from a luxury resort and suddenly you are wading through a river of plastic bottles.
This is the hidden cost of the tropical dream, a paradise that is slowly choking on its own convenience.
We do not want this, but we have no other way. When the government does not provide bins, the forest becomes the bin.
For the expat, this visual decay is a constant reminder that the paradise is a fragile mask, easily torn by a single gust of wind. The struggle is to find those few places where the dream is still real, where the sand is still white and the water is still pure. But as we look closer, we see that the decay is not just environmental, it is systemic, a reflection of a failing infrastructure. In the Philippines, a simple piece of paper can be the difference between owning a paradise and owning a very expensive mistake.
The law here is a living thing. It changes depending on who you know, who you pay, and how many times you are willing to wait in line.
For the expat, the bureaucracy is a labyrinth. A permit for a house, a visa extension, a simple land title can take months or even years.
I spent 3 months trying to get one signature, 3 months of being told to come back tomorrow, only to find the office was closed.
This is the red tape, a systemic inefficiency that transforms the simple act of living into a full-time job of negotiation and patience. In the West, we expect a system to work for us. Here, you must learn to work around the system, often by finding a local who knows the secret path.
The mistake most foreigners make is thinking that the law is a fixed set of rules. In the Philippines, the law is a conversation.
This frustration is the slow poison of the island dream, a constant reminder that you are a guest in a land that does not value your time. Yet, even in the heart of the bureaucracy, the Filipino smile remains a gentle cushion against the hard edge of systemic failure. Every paradise has an expiration date. For most expats, it arrives the moment the first real problem becomes impossible to solve.
You start to realize that the smile you loved so much is sometimes just a mask for incompetence. And that is when the anger starts.
The colors seem to fade. The turquoise water looks gray, and the endless summer begins to feel like a suffocating trap.
I remember the day I just sat in my office and cried. Not because I was sad, but because I was exhausted from fighting the system.
The honeymoon is over. The mask of the tropical Eden has fallen, and what remains is a raw, unfiltered struggle for sanity. This is the critical moment. Some pack their bags and flee back to the order of Europe. Others decide to sink deeper into the chaos.
You have to decide if the beauty is worth the price, if the white sand is worth the hours of frustration and the systemic failure.
The transition from paradise to reality is not a sudden fall, but a slow descent into a world where nothing is as it seems. Now, we leave the frustration of the mind and enter the terror of the body. Welcome to the purgatory of the islands. In the West, a medical emergency is a matter of minutes. Here, it is a gamble with distance, time, and the availability of basic tools.
We do our best with what we have, but when you lack a basic X-ray machine or a steady supply of oxygen, you are fighting a war with sticks.
For the local population, the clinic is the only hope. For the expat, it is a place of profound anxiety and a reminder of their vulnerability.
I had a severe infection a few years ago. The local clinic was just a room with a fan. I realized then that I was completely on my own.
The distance to a real hospital can be hours of bumpy roads and traffic jams, turning a treatable condition into a fatal tragedy. The supply chain is as fragile as the infrastructure. Essential medicines often run out, leaving doctors to improvise with whatever is available.
We see the fear in the eyes of the foreigners. They are used to a world where medicine is a right, not a luxury that depends on the road.
This is the raw reality of the island purgatory, a place where the beauty of the sunrise is overshadowed by the fear of a sudden illness. For the expat, the realization is sudden and cold. Your wealth can buy a villa, but it cannot buy a functioning healthcare system. When the local pharmacy is empty, the only hope is a delivery from the mainland, a process that is as unpredictable as the ocean.
I waited 2 weeks for a simple prescription, 2 weeks of anxiety, only to be told that the boat had a mechanical failure.
The last mile is often the hardest. Muddy roads and broken bridges can turn a few kilometers into a day-long journey.
We are used to it. We learn to live without. But for the elderly and the very sick, this gap in service is often a death sentence.
This is the silent tragedy of the archipelago, a world of immense natural wealth, but a complete void of basic logistical stability. The expat learns to adapt, finding local ways to solve problems, but the underlying fear of a total system collapse never truly leaves.
You realize that your life depends on a few people with a boat and a motorbike. It is a terrifying thought when you are really sick.
In this purgatory, the delivery of a single box of medicine can be the difference between hope and total despair. The gap is not just in the distance, but in the value placed on a human life in the face of systemic neglect. But while the medical void is a slow agony, there are forces of nature that can erase a paradise in a single afternoon. In the Philippines, nature is not just a beautiful backdrop. It is a volatile god that can change its mood in a single hour.
We do not call them storms. We call them visitors. Some visitors bring rain, but some visitors come to take everything we own.
The monsoon season is a period of collective anxiety, where every heavy rain carries the threat of a landslide or a devastating flood.
I remember the first typhoon. The wind sounded like a screaming train. You realize how fragile your little paradise really is.
And then there is the ultimate fear, the tsunami, a silent withdrawal of the sea that signals the arrival of a wall of water. But the spirit of the people is the only thing that does not break. They rebuild, they smile, and they wait for the next visitor.
We do not fight the ocean. We dance with it. If you fight the nature of the island, you will lose everything.
For the expat, this volatility is a constant source of stress, a reminder that their sanctuary can be erased in a single afternoon. The cycle of destruction and rebirth is the heartbeat of the Philippines, a rhythm of survival that defines every living soul here. But while the wind and the water are obvious enemies, there is a more subtle hell, the failure of the things we trust to work. In the West, a technical failure is a scheduled appointment. In the Philippines, it is an adventure into the unknown.
My Mac battery died. I took it to a local expert who promised me it would be fixed in an hour for a few hundred pesos.
The local technician works with a confidence that is not backed by training. He treats a high-end machine like a piece of scrap metal.
It is a simple fix. I just need to find the right part. Maybe it will come tomorrow, or maybe next week. No problem.
By the time the laptop was returned, it was not just the battery that was gone. The motherboard was scarred and the screen flickered. Upon returning to Europe, the shock was not the repair, but the cost. The damage caused by the local expert was catastrophic.
The repair cost almost as much as a brand new Mac. I paid for the local technician's curiosity with my own life savings.
This is the hidden tax of the islands. A lack of professionalism that transforms a small save into a massive financial loss. The technician will smile and tell you it is no problem, while your expensive hardware is slowly dying under his hands. In the end, you realize that in the Philippines, you do not pay for the service. You pay for the risk that the service will actually work. There is a silent wall in the Philippines, a barrier made of indifference and a profound lack of professional agility.
We do it our way, the island way. The foreigners are too stressed. They want everything to be perfect, but the island does not like perfection.
Literacy and technical agility are often lower than expected, leaving the expat to manage every single detail of their own existence. This non-responsiveness is a slow poison. It transforms the joy of creation into a cycle of correction, frustration, and eventual resignation. The agility wall is a mirror of the systemic failure. If the government cannot manage a permit, why should a worker manage a blueprint? In this world, the only way to survive is to lower your expectations until they match the reality of the island. But the most terrifying failure is not a wrong color of paint. It is the complete collapse of the things we cannot control. This is the final truth of the islands. The paradise and the hell are not separate places. They exist in the same square meter of land.
You can buy the best security and the best walls, but you cannot buy a functioning society. Eventually, the chaos outside leaks in.
When the healthcare fails, when the roads dissolve, and when the bureaucracy consumes your time, the beauty of the water becomes a mockery.
There is a point where the freedom stops feeling like a gift and starts feeling like abandonment. You are just a ghost in a broken machine.
Systemic collapse is not a sudden event here. It is a permanent state of being, a low-frequency hum of failure that never truly stops. The tragedy is that the people are too kind, too smiling, and too patient to demand the system they actually deserve.
I have seen men lose everything here, not to a storm, but to a simple mistake that the system was too broken to fix.
The island purgatory is a place where you can be surrounded by the most beautiful scenery on earth and still feel completely alone. This is the bottom of the descent, the point where the dream has completely dissolved, leaving only the raw, hard reality of survival. But if this is the hell, why do so many still choose to stay? Why is the allure of the island stronger than the fear of the collapse? After the descent into the island purgatory, a question remains. Why do so many people choose to stay in a place where the system is fundamentally broken?
You weigh it every single day. On one side, you have the frustration, the noise, and the failing clinics. On the other, you have this.
It is the great trade-off of the tropics. You exchange the efficiency and security of the West for a raw, unfiltered connection with nature and humanity. In this space, the social hierarchy disappears. The shared struggle against the chaos creates a bond that is stronger than any common language. For some, the beauty is enough. The sight of a single turquoise bay can erase a month of bureaucratic nightmares in a heartbeat.
I do not miss the order. I miss the safety, yes. But I would rather live in a beautiful mess than a sterile, boring perfection.
This is the psychological paradox of the Philippines. The more it breaks your heart with its failure, the more it captures your soul with its grace. It is a gamble with one's sanity, but for those who win, the reward is a life lived with a vividness that the West can no longer imagine. But as we find the balance, we must ask, is this a sustainable way to live, or are we just drifting in a beautiful, slow-motion collapse? There is a strange psychological phenomenon that happens to those who stay. The things that should drive them away become the very things they love.
In Europe, everything is predictable. You know exactly when the bus arrives and how the tax office works. But it is so sterile it feels dead.
The chaos of the islands is not just a failure of the system, it is a manifestation of life in its most raw and unpredictable form.
I spent 10 years building a career in a city where I felt like a gear in a machine. Here, I am a person again, even if I am a frustrated one.
This is the addiction to the contrast. The deeper the frustration, the more intense the joy of a perfect sunset or a genuine act of kindness. The expat stops fighting the island and starts accepting the imperfection as a price for the freedom to simply exist without a schedule.
You start to find a strange peace in the failure. You realize that the world does not end if the internet goes out for 2 days.
It is a psychological surrender, a decision to live in the present moment because the future is too unpredictable to plan for. In this surrender, the expat finally finds the peace they came for, not by fixing the paradise, but by accepting the hell that comes with it. But for some, the balance is impossible to maintain, and the only way to save their sanity is to leave the islands forever. To understand if the dream is sustainable, one must look to those who have survived the islands for decades.
I arrived here 30 years ago. Back then, it was a different world, but the essence is the same. You either break or you bend.
Arthur is one of the few who found the balance, turning the systemic failure of the islands into a personal philosophy of detachment.
Arthur is like a grandfather to the village. He stopped trying to change us, and that is when we truly accepted him as one of our own.
Integration for the long-term resident is not about fitting in. It is about creating a shared space where the gaps in the system no longer matter. They have seen the typhoons come and go, the governments fail, and the roads dissolve, yet they remain anchored by a sense of peace.
The secret is to stop expecting the island to be a hotel. It is a wild place. If you treat it like a home, it will take care of you.
For Arthur, the paradise is not the beach or the weather. The paradise is the silence that comes when you finally stop fighting the chaos. Their lives are a testament to the fact that the island purgatory can, with enough time and patience, be transformed into a sanctuary. But as we look at the final balance, we must ask if this peace is available to everyone, or only to those who can afford to lose.